Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today, we're going to be looking at a topic of how much does it cost to build a deck on MTG Arena in real dollars, and we're going to kind of set some parameters of how we're approaching this. So with the introduction of the Mythic wildcard bundles, you can now purchase wildcards straight up for cash. So 4 rare wildcards, $10 USD, so $2.50 a rare. And then Mythics are basically $5 each, so $2.50, $5. So we're going to kind of look at this from the point of if we don't have any cards, we're net new, we just want to pick up a deck, play it, how much money out of pocket will it cost to build a deck? And we're going to look at standard, a couple examples in standard, explore, as well as historic, to see as well if building solely a standard deck from scratch is cheaper in the long run. Or building something for the eternal formats like Explorer, Historic is better value considering that the cards don't rotate. Now, the assumption we're going to make is commons and uncommons are basically free. There's no way to acquire them for just straight cash, so those would require some packs, some playing to get to that point there. So we are going to jump into it, and I broke it down for a couple different ways. We are not on MTGO, despite what you'd see. This is not Excel simulator. This is just straight up Excel, not MTGO. So we're going to look at a couple top standard decks right now, and we're going to look at Grixis midrange. So with Grixis here, we can see the total cost, and how I broke this down was for each card in the specific deck list, just look at the quantity played, attributing rarity, and then just doing a calculation with the assumption this is $2.50 for rares, as well as $5 for Mythic, what it equates to. So for the Grixis deck, if you want to play Grixis midrange in standard, on Arena, out of pocket, it's 130 USD to build the deck. That's from Untapped right now, the top kind of performing Grixis list. If we were to build that same deck and you went to your LGS and you want to pick up those cards in paper, it would be about $512 per MTG Goldfish using TCG, I think, mid, which probably would be a little bit more because that's like looking at the cheapest kind of versions of the card. So it's quite a big variable in terms of the price. If we see what's kind of driving that in the standard version, we got like Fable the Mirror Breakers, which is probably like a $20, $30 card, Sheoldred, as well as Liliana the Veil. And then you're also in the 3-color mana base, having a lot of the rare lands, which would contribute to the price both on Arena as well as in paper. If we're also looking at the Mardu Angels list, this particular list doesn't even give you the benefit of playing basic lands to cut the cost. So same idea. Looking at the rarity and then corresponding cost, Arena is $168 versus paper being $524. Again, cards contributing to this, you have things like Wandering Emperor, Fable the Mirror Breaker, Sheoldred, all kind of contributing to the cost of those decks. So then I went to look at kind of more of a budgety sense deck, Azoria Soldiers, and we can actually see that the Soldiers deck to build on Arena, based on the number of rares associated with it, is actually more expensive to build than Grixis, despite being half the price in paper. So it's an interesting consideration there, where if you know, in paper, this is a more approachable, and I say approachable loosely, it's still $250 than like the Grixis or the Mardu list, but you're still paying pretty much the same price as the Grixis mid for a 2-color deck versus a 3-color deck. So all in all, in standard, you're looking probably about $130 if you want to do a dual to the tri-color deck, and then kind of topping out in the 170. So if we kind of extrapolate that to the other formats, we have Explorer Rakdos, which is one of the more popular decks on the format. It's kind of same query. We're looking through, it's $160. So kind of topping out towards the top end of the Mardu list. Because these are Arena only formats, I haven't pulled in the price, but this is quite an expensive deck in paper. You got Liliana's, Thoughtseize, bunch of Shocklands, everything mixed into there, 3 Sheoldreds. But you're getting a lot of rares and mythics, and that could be expected in some extent for these eternal formats. You do have cards like Fatal Push, Heartless Axe, stuff like that, that's down, like lower rarity. And the sideboard's pretty much commons and uncommons, 9 out of the 15 cards, kind of mixed into there. And then if we look in historic, the Eternal format, it's actually the best bang for your buck right now. Historic Boros Artifacts, which is typically one of the top decks in best of 3, takes advantage of a lot of uncommons and commons to play more of a synergy-based deck. and it's only coming in at $100 on Arena, so cheaper than any of the standard decks we featured towards the top of the meta. And you're really just paying for the mana base. There's some budget considerations if you want to switch out some of the stuff like Inspiring Vantage can save you $10 out of pocket there, save you some rare wild cards. Does make it a little bit awkward to cast some of the spells, but save you some stuff there. But all in all, if we look at it like from this vantage point, it's not necessarily cheaper to build standard. There's always the adage of, you know, it's an easier to acquire cards, but if you're looking just straight out of pocket, these Eternal formats probably are better value. These cards will stay around longer. You can have the cards, you can play them longer without rotation kind of coming into effect. Now, saying that, it's probably not the best to just straight up cash to buy the cards. Going over to the store, there's a couple introductions that came in here that make picking up packs and accumulating your collection a little bit better, and it also puts at ease. So if we look at the packs now, by purchasing packs, you get kind of value in two ways. So with Brothers War, they introduced the gold pack. So once you purchase 10 packs of Brothers War, you get a gold pack for free, and that contains 6 rares or mythics from any of the standard legal sets, I believe. So this is another way to kind of contribute and build up. Now, there is the element of randomness. You might not get what you want, but it kind of builds up your surplus and kind of gets you towards that and gets you closer to there. It also contributes to your vault. So your vault is the way you can get wildcards that can also be used instead of paying out of pocket. So as you accumulate more of the set, you're able to accumulate more of the wildcards, get your vault status higher. Once you hit 100%, you get some mythic, 2 rares, and then some commons and uncommons mixed into there. The best way to kind of maximize this is, for example, say we are going to buy Brothers War packs. Before we do, if you have any commons or uncommon wildcards, craft as many of those as possible for the Brothers War set before you open your packs. Once you have 4 ofs, it adds a little bit more percentage to the vault each time, gets you closer overall to that. So that's kind of another way to kind of min-max the money that you put into this game, the time you put into this, stuff like that. Similarly, if you haven't done so already, it's always important to try to re-roll your quests. I already did for the day. There's 750 quests. At the minimum, if you have the time, try to do the 4 wins. That kind of gives you the most in terms of the gold. Then you start just getting 25. But ultimately, don't treat, if you're like a free-to-play player, if it becomes a job, this is a game. Don't make it feel like you have to do stuff like that. This is just kind of ways to kind of play around with that. And then there's always budget ways to kind of build out the decks, going with something like a monocolor deck, even just like, for example, this is an alchemy deck that I was playing, but just for proof, like just for show. Playing a monocolor deck, you save a lot of the rares for the mana base typically. So even something like this, I got like 3 rares for 4, 8, 12 rares in this whole deck. And this is one that I got Mythic with. There's a lot of kind of monocolor decks that you can do, but at the same accord, sometimes the monocolor decks, if you look at like the mono white soldiers list, stuff like that, it ends up being just as heavy in terms of spells. So it's always kind of a mix and bag in terms of that. But that's it. So that's kind of like the breakdown of costs. If you're looking to kind of see what to get into Arena, stuff like that, this is kind of a cool way to look into that. It's pretty easy to plug and play. All you need to do, if those are interested in how to calculate this, I can put the kind of the approach and what I did in terms of formula, but you're basically just doing a VLOOKUP, just do a multiplier. You can see with that. So if you want to see how much a deck costs, if you are kind of applying to it, the easiest way too is even honestly paste this into like a deck builder tool, something like Aether Hub or MTG Goldfish. It'll give you a count of rares and mythics. Take those, extrapolate it by times in 2.5 per rare, and then $5 per mythic. But let me know what you think. If you think Arena is still too expensive compared to paper, and if you have kind of any ideas on what you think could kind of improve the economy, let me know in the comments what you think, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.